especially at the end. Like, we might change a few things at the very end, but so if you guys want to just have that, and so you'll kind of know what we're covering each class throughout the quarter. And then the third thing is a handout to prepare for Wednesday. Wednesday's class, we will be studying the book of Lamentations. There's a handout for these, so I'll have some of these to hand out, but then there'll also be extra up here as well. You can pick all those up. All right, before we begin then, let's have a word of prayer. Our Almighty God and our great Father in heaven, we are coming to you this morning to praise you, to glorify you, to thank you for being a great God, for giving us your word in the scriptures, and for giving us the ability to study and understand who you are, to know you better, to know your will for us, and to understand your will that you've shown us in the Bible throughout all time. We pray that you'll be with us as we study this morning and in the quarter coming up, that we will always be focused on the truth of your word, focused on learning what is right so that we can serve you, so that we can be pleasing to you, and so that we can teach those around us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, so take out your Bible and turn to Isaiah 10. Isaiah chapter 10. And when we get there, someone read verses 20 through 22. Isaiah 10, 20 through 22.
Now in the day, the remnant of Israel and those of the house of Jacob who had escaped will never again rely on the one who struck them, but will truly rely on the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. A remnant will return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty God. For though your people, O Israel, may be like the sand of the sea, only a remnant within them will return. A destruction is determined, overflowing with righteousness.
Okay, so this is from Isaiah chapter 10. So we've already studied this. We've talked about this section of Isaiah previously. But it talks about the remnant of Israel. What is the remnant that he's talking about? Yeah, Pam.
Some of the Judah.
Okay. All right.
I'm guessing, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So it's part of Israel and Judah, yeah.
I think it's the remnant that came back during the time when Cyrus caused all people that had been captured to go back to their homeland. And what was that, 536?
Yes. Okay. So yes. So this is Isaiah who is prophesying of the people's captivity that's coming, that is coming, but then also prophesying of a remnant, and specifically you see in verse 21 that a remnant will return. Okay. Yeah.
Remnant means remaining.
Right.
Whatever is left, whatever the people that return and that reveal the city.
Yeah. Okay. So the remnant. So as you said, it's the remaining, but it's a piece of the whole, right? So he says in verse 22, "For though your people Israel be as the sand of the sea, only a remnant of them will return." Okay. So as we've seen throughout Israel's history, and as was promised to Abraham, the people grew to a great number, right? They were as the sand of the sea. But now, after being carried off to captivity, there's going to be a return, but it's only going to be a remnant. It's only going to be a small number, a small piece of what the nation was at one time. Okay, so this really is the theme, the idea a remnant will return. That's the theme of this quarter. Okay, because this quarter we're going to be studying after we left off last time as the people. This is a good thing. So this idea of the remnant is full of hope. It's full of that it's going to be a very good thing. That when the return comes, it's God returning to his people. So it's not just the people returning to the land, it's the people returning to him. It's returning to God. So it's extremely hopeful. So the question in this quarter is sort of when and how does that happen? Okay, and as we'll talk about, it might be a little more complicated than we might think. Okay? All right, so let's back up then. Let's just do it. Let's talk about, let's list the 17 time periods. So we can just go one at a time. So what's the first?
Before the flood.
Before the flood, okay?
The flood.
The flood. Number 3.
Scattering of the people.
Scattering of the people, okay? Number 4.
Patriarchs.
The patriarchs, okay? What Bible books have we covered so far? Genesis, correct, okay? All right, after the patriarchs.
The Exodus.
Yep, the Exodus from Egypt, okay? And then?
The wandering.
Wandering in the wilderness. Anybody on this side of the room? After the wandering in the wilderness?
Conquering of the land.
Okay, the conquering of the land, yeah, all right? So after they wander in the wilderness, they conquer the land of Israel, and then?
Judges.
Judges. After the judges?
United Kingdom.
United Kingdom, good. Divided Kingdom, good.
Or divided kingdom, then fallen kingdom.
Before the captivity.
Judah alone after the divide.
Yep, Judah alone, right? Okay, so the kingdom divided, and then Israel is taken off by Assyria and taken into captivity, but really that's the end of Israel, right? And so you have the period of Judah alone, all right? And then after Judah alone,
Captivity.
the captivity, okay? And then
500 years of silence.
No,
return from captivity, then 400 years of silence, okay? All right? 400 years of silence, meaning biblical silence, so the time period between the Old and the New Testament. All right, and then what?
Life of Christ.
Life of Christ,
Early church.
and the early church, all right? And the letters to the Christians, all right? Okay, not sure how well you can see that. Yeah, it's better up here, okay. It's not very clear on the back at all. All right, so that's the 17 time periods. Like I said, I do strongly encourage everyone to memorize those, all right? And the reason for that, there's a lot of reasons for that. We've been talking about, since we started this program going through the Bible, that we want to know the Bible story. We want to know it, to understand it beginning to end, understand the entirety, how it all fits together. And then when we know the Bible story, we can tell it to other people. All right, so this can be part of what we're working on in terms of evangelism. If you have these 17 periods in your head, then you can tell the story quickly and easily, in a summary way, right? In a short way, you could tell someone the Bible story just by having the 17 periods. Yeah, Tom.
Is number 1 creation instead of before the flood?
Well, no, it's before the flood, but obviously creation is the main event there. Okay, but you also have the fall. You have Adam and Eve. You have Cain and Abel. So there's a few stories there. So we just call it before the flood, but creation's the number 1 event there. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we want to have these in our head because then that helps us to retain what we're learning. Okay, and have the story in our head if we can have these memorized. All right. So we're going to work on that this quarter, and my goal is to go over this every time. But I don't want to just go over it in class. I want you guys to be working on it and memorizing it. Okay, that's the whole point. All right. Okay, so let's go back a little bit then, and just think about a few of the events that we've talked about in these in this Bible history through the Old Testament so far. All right, so the patriarchs. Who was the first of the patriarchs?
Abraham.
Abraham, okay. So we have Abraham, and in Abraham's story, God makes a covenant with Abraham, and gives some promises to Abraham. Where do we find God making that covenant and those promises to Abraham? What Bible?
Genesis chapter 12.
Genesis 12, good, all right. So in Genesis 12, those are the 3 that we're covering this quarter. Yeah, so in Genesis 12, you have the promises to Abraham. And what are the 3 main promises that we talk about that God made to Abraham?
great nation, a name, and land.
Okay, yeah, okay, all right, so, yes, so a great name is one that, is not one of the three that I was thinking of, but that's right, that'll make him a great name, make him a great nation, the land, and what's the third one, yeah?
Father of many people.
Okay, so the father of many people, I would say is the same as the nation promise, right? That he's making him a great nation, yes? The seed promise, all right? So that from his descendants would come one who would bless all nations, all right? All right, so again, there's a lot of promises there, but these are the three main ones we think of: the nation, the land, and the seed promise, or one that would bless all people. Okay? When was the nation promise fulfilled?
When they went into the land of Canaan? When they went into the land of Canaan?
Okay, I would say even before that. Yeah.
When they went into Egypt, 70 people went in and 2 million came out.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the growth of the nation, of a great people in Egypt, they became a great people, all right? So as she said, they coming out, they were a great number of people. And then they go to Sinai, and that's where God establishes a covenant with them at Sinai, that they as a nation would be his people. And so he gives them a law that organizes them as a nation, that gives them a spiritual law to follow, the law of Moses. Okay, so really they become a great nation during the Exodus. Okay, and so then when is the land promise fulfilled? Yeah.
Book of Joshua.
Okay, yeah. So the book of Joshua, when they go back, or when they actually conquer the land. All right. Did that happen right away, immediately after Sinai?
No,
No. Why not?
because they didn't drive everybody out.
Oh, well, okay. Yes. Yeah.
They had to wander for 40 years.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And why did they just wander for 40 years? Yeah, because they refused to take the land when God was first going to give it to them. They refused to take it, right? So then he had them, if they weren't going to take the land, so he had them wander for 40 years. That generation died off in the wilderness before the next generation came in the book of Joshua and actually took the land that God had given them. All right? So that's the nation and the land. What about the seed promise?
That was built when Jesus was born.
Okay, yes. Hasn't happened yet, okay, in terms of our study, right? So that one is still out there. All right? Okay, so they took the land of Israel, settled the land, and so then we had the period, as I said, the book of Judges. Okay, so the period of where we see various judges really saving them at times from their sin and from those who would oppress them because of their sin. So how did they end up with a king?
They asked for it.
Okay, they asked for it. A good answer. And what was God's answer when they asked for a king?
Basically a bad idea.
Okay, yeah, basically, bad idea, okay.
He told Samuel, appoint them a king. They haven't rejected you, they've rejected me as their king.
Okay, so this was them asking for a king was really a rejection of God as their king. Okay.
They wanted to be like everybody else.
They wanted to be like the nations around them. They wanted a king. They wanted someone to fight their battles. So did God give them a king?
Yes.
Yes. Did he give them the king they wanted?
The first one, yes.
The first one? Yes, named Saul. And how did that go?
Bad.
Bad. Not well. Okay, exactly as God predicted. It did not go well. So then he gave him another king. His choice for king. And who was that? David, okay? So David becomes king then, and God makes some promises to David. He makes a covenant with David and makes some promises to him. And where do we find those? Pam?
That's in, it's 2 Samuel, I think.
2 Samuel?
I don't know the chapter.
Okay.
But I also
Chapter
know
8.
that he promised David the scepter would not leave his family.
Okay, yes, so that's probably, all right. So 2 Samuel, what chapter?
8.
Close?
7.
7. All right, 2 Samuel 7. All right, I'm going to drill this into you guys' head. 2 Samuel 7, all right? Just like Genesis 12, David promises to David, 2 Samuel 7, all right? And as Pam mentioned, the promise to David was that he would always have a descendant on his throne. Okay? So again, another promise that we've been tracking throughout history here. All right? So, David, what else? So then David moves to Jerusalem, makes Jerusalem the capital, and he wants to do what? After making Jerusalem the capital, what does he want to do?
Build God's temple.
Build a temple, build a house for God, okay? What is God's answer to that?
No.
Okay, no to him, all right, but why? What did he say?
Man of war, man of blood.
Okay, what else?
That he doesn't need a house. If he wanted one, he would have had one.
Yeah, okay. So his first answer is, who asked you to build me a house? Right? God had never said anything about building a house. Okay? And so there in 2 Samuel 7, instead, God says, I'm going to build you a house. Right? And so then you have the promise that his house, from his descendants, was always going to be someone who would be on the throne. Okay? Okay, but ultimately then, does God allow the temple to be built?
Yes.
Yes, all right, by his son. So David makes a bunch of preparations for the temple, and David's son, who builds the temple? Solomon. All right, so we've got David. There's a time of peace. There's a time of prosperity. God is blessing him. There's a house. The temple, what does the temple represent?
God's presence.
God's presence, all right? So remember, after Solomon comes and builds the temple, God's presence comes and fills the temple. So he's there in the midst of his people, in the center, in the midst of his people, dwelling among them. So everything's good now for the people of Israel now that from here on out. No? Why not?
Because they started to stray away and go worship the Baals and all that.
Okay, who particularly?
The priest.
Solomon.
Okay, priest, but Solomon, right? Solomon, because of his wives, is led away into idolatry. So then what happens when Solomon's son takes the throne?
And God says that he's going to tear the kingdom away from him.
Yeah, so God had already predicted to Solomon the kingdom would be torn away from him. And so then Solomon's son, Rehoboam, at that time, the kingdom divides, right? So you have the divided kingdom with the north, and how many tribes are in the north?
10.
10 tribes, okay? And so they were called Israel. And then 2 tribes in the south called? Judah, okay? Okay, so how do things go for Israel in the north?
Terrible.
And why is that?
Because Jeroboam didn't want them to go worship in Jerusalem, so he made the golden calves, and they started doing all their worship in Israel. And as that went along, Assyria was starting to come down and take them over.
Yeah, so from the very start of the northern kingdom, Jeroboam makes a new worship, right? He's theoretically worshiping God, but in a completely different way than what God has said that they were supposed to, in a different place. And so the very foundation of Israel from the start was not built on worshiping God in his way, doing what is right. And how many good kings are there in Israel? None. 0. Okay? So they have no good kings. It kind of just goes downhill until eventually what happens to Israel?
They hurried away with Assyria.
Okay, Assyria comes and destroys the nation and carries them off into captivity. And when do they come back? Never. Okay, that's it for Israel. All right? Judah, in the meantime, I'm behind my slides. Judah, in the meantime, lasts longer because Judah has some good kings. All right, so Judah, we see this period where they go back and forth. Right, they have some good kings, they have some evil kings. But overall, things are declining, all right? They survive when Assyria comes and takes Israel into captivity. Judah survives. Why?
He never basically stop believing in God, so to speak, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
The promise he made to David.
Okay, yeah, all right. Largely the promise he made to David, and at the time, King Hezekiah was a righteous king, right? Who praised to God that he was completely surrounded. Assyria has come and destroyed all the cities around except Jerusalem itself. He praised to God, and so God saves them through Hezekiah and his faith and belief and in God. Okay. Okay, but eventually then, they continue, Judah, there's more kings who turn away from God, who lead the people away from God, and eventually Judah continues to decline until God says what?
Babylon's coming.
Yeah, all right, so he starts sending prophets to them that they're going to go into captivity as well, and ultimately that's going to be from Babylon, okay? All right, let's see if I can... Okay. All right, so we reached the point of no remedy that we talked about last quarter, and eventually God is going to send them into captivity as well. So when we come to the end of the quarter, then we saw how Israel is sent off into captivity in Babylon, taken away into another, to Babylon, another place. So why? Big picture, why? God's people are not in the land. They're not in the land where they're supposed to be. So why is that? Why did that happen? Their sin, okay?
So went to idolatry and not getting rid of all the people out of the land.
Yeah, okay, so a lot of it goes back to from the very beginning, they didn't do what God said, right? From the very beginning, they didn't completely conquer the land. They didn't destroy all the people as God had said they should, and so what God said came true. You mentioned idolatry. All right, so the prophets who are predicting this captivity are also telling them why, and they list two big reasons time and time again. Number one is idolatry. The people have left God, and number two is that they are mistreating each other. They're not treating each other right. They're oppressing each other. They're oppressing the poor. They're using their power for evil. And so those two categories, over and over again, the prophets will go back to. All right? So if you think about, if we go all the way back to the law of Moses, what did Jesus say were the two most basic commands under the law of Moses?
It's the Shema.
Okay, the Shema, which is what? Deuteronomy 6.
Love the Lord your God.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. All right, which is also the first commandment, right? Loving the first and second command, have no other gods before me, right? Okay, so that was the very basic foundation was don't have other gods before me, and so but they continued to go into idolatry. Okay, and what did Jesus say was the second command?
Love your neighbor as thyself.
Love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? And so, the second thing that the prophets keep hitting on is that they're mistreating each other. They're not loving each other as yourself. They're not keeping those basic commands. And so, God's covenant with them from the very beginning was that if they don't follow the commands, they were going to be cursed. If they follow the commands, they'd be blessed. If they don't, they'll be cursed. And so, God is keeping his part of the covenant because they're not following the commands. They're cursed and they go into captivity. Okay. What about the temple? Oh, go ahead.
I was just thinking about something, and I've gone through these before, that they really forgot about the promises.
Yeah.
Specifically the last one. And so since they forgot about the Messiah that kept on being talked about by the prophets, eventually when he showed up, nobody even knew who he was. And they were completely confused.
Yeah.
And so the whole point of all of it is leading to him, but they get to that point where they're all in captivity, and all they can do is think, like, what did we do to ourselves? They forgot about the promise.
Exactly.
And God always had that cycle of redeeming them and bringing them out and saving them. So he was trying to drill that into their heads, but they got to a point where they were like, no, we don't know anything anymore.
Exactly.
So they were so confused when he showed up.
Exactly, and that's really what we want to get to this quarter as we go through the fact that they return, and then we're going to talk about the years of silence, because there's 400 years there that go by, and that's exactly why I'm kind of going back and focusing on these promises, and that's why Moses said over and over, remember, right? Remember. When we went through Deuteronomy, we talked about it. He said, remember, because of course that they don't, right? Okay. All right. Quickly, what about the temple? What about the fact that the temple was there in Jerusalem and all those promises about that? Yeah.
God told them through the prophets that don't say the temple of God and think that that's your security, because it's not.
Right.
And the temple will be destroyed.
Right.
And the prophets told them that you think you have, you're safe, and you think the temple of God is going to save you, well, you're wrong.
Exactly, and that's why, from the very beginning, God didn't ask for the temple, right? Because they started putting their faith in the temple. And so that's why in Ezekiel, if you remember Ezekiel 8 through 11, Ezekiel sees that vision of the temple. And the whole point there is in chapter 8, he sees all the abominations that are happening in the temple. And then he sees God's glory, God's presence, what? Lift and go out of the temple, right? And it's devastating, but the whole point there is that God's presence is no longer in the temple, so it's just a bunch of brick and stone, okay? And so when they come and destroy Jerusalem and destroy the temple, that shouldn't have been a surprise, because God has been telling them that that was what was going to happen, all right? Okay, so there's 3 waves then of deportations. So in other words, 3 different times that people are carried off to Babylon. In the first wave, what famous Bible character is carried off? Daniel. Okay. In the second wave, what? Ezekiel. Okay. All right. And then in the third time, ends with Zedekiah. So let's turn to 2 Chronicles 36. I want to just go back and read this. Kind of refresh where we ended up. So you have the last king of Judah, Zedekiah. He rebels against Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. And so Nebuchadnezzar's had enough, and he comes down and says, I'm done with this. I'm destroying you guys. All right? So someone read 2 Chronicles 36, verses 13 through 16. Yeah, go ahead.
He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear allegiance by God. But he stiffened his neck and hardened his heart against turning to the Lord God of Israel. Furthermore, all the officials of the priests and the people were very unfaithful, following all the abominations of the nations, and they defiled the house of the Lord, which he had sanctified in Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their fathers, sent word to them again and again by his messengers, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they continually mocked the messengers of God, despised his words, and scoffed at his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord arose against his people, until there was no remedy.
Okay, so the text kind of interjects this reason to explain to us why this is happening, okay? And it's happening, as we just said, because the people sinned. Even though God was patient with them, he sent them messengers, prophets, again and again, the text said. We saw that. They had prophet after prophet trying to warn them, trying to turn them away from their sin, but they kept rejecting it until there was no remedy. There was nothing left that God could do to save them. All right? So then verses 17 through 21 describe what happened. And I won't read it this time. I hope you did read it. If not, go home and read it again. But it describes then how that Nebuchadnezzar comes up against them, kills their young men, young women, old or young, had no compassion, and gave them all into his hand. Verse 18, he carries off the vessels of the house of the temple off to Babylon to kind of be his prize, his treasure. Those are going to come back into the story this quarter. All right, he takes them into exile, verse 21, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah until the land had enjoyed its Sabbaths. all the days that it lay desolate, it kept the Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. All right? So we remember the Sabbath, the people had failed to keep the Sabbath. And God had talked about this idea of rest every 7 periods, right? Every 7 days, there was a Sabbath rest, right? Every 7 years, the land was supposed to be given a Sabbath rest, okay? Every 7 years, aka 49 years, there was supposed to be the year of Jubilee, right? Where there were 2 years in a row of Sabbath, okay? They didn't do that. They didn't keep those, and so God says, I'm gonna give the land its rest for 70 years. Okay? And so that idea of 70 years, then it's picked up in other places, Jeremiah 29, other places talk about the 70 years, and that's going to be important for us as we go into the quarter as well, thinking about what does that 70 years mean? When is that 70 years up so that the people start returning? And what does that look like? Okay? All right, so I just want us to think about the status of God's people as we begin this quarter. What is it like for God's people as we begin this quarter? All right, so let's just think about all those promises to Abraham, right? In the promises to Abraham, in the great nation promise, how is that looking right now? Not very good. Okay, we know they became a great nation, but at this point they're dwindling down, right? So many have been killed. Who's left is taken off into captivity. All right, what about the land promise?
They lost that.
They lost it. They're off. They're gone. There's a small remnant of, the poor, whoever that the Babylonians were deemed too unworthy to even take off into captivity are left behind. But they've lost it. Not good. All right. What about the seed promise? We've already said, well, that hasn't happened yet. Okay. So the promises to Abraham right now aren't looking very good. Yes.
Well, the prophets, like Jeremiah, said that the line of David, the kings, is going to end. So that even that's in question.
Exactly. The promises to David. Where's the descendant on the throne of David? After Zedekiah, there's nobody. Nebuchadnezzar puts this guy Gedaliah on the throne, but he's just a governor and he's not in the line of David. He's just kind of a random servant of Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, so what's going on here? Jerusalem, all the promises about Jerusalem is God's dwelling place.
That's not true.
The temple, it's gone. The priesthood of Aaron, where's that?
Gone.
God's covenant with his people? Well, it's not looking good right now, right? And so there's this question as we begin this quarter that, this is like the low point. This is like what's going on. It looks like it's all gone. Okay? From their perspective as they begin it. So when we get to Wednesday, is it any surprise that the first book we're going to study is called Lamentations? Right? Because you're going to lament what happened, what is going on, and is this it? The end of the book of Lamentations, spoilers, the end of the book of Lamentations is going to end, have you deserted your people forever? Because it kind of looks like that right now. All right? So it's important for us to understand that. But it's also true that all of these prophets, as we've been saying, have been predicting a hope for the future, okay? That a remnant's going to return, and it's going to be glorious, and it's going to be great and wonderful. But it doesn't look like that when we begin this quarter. Okay? All right, so... All right, so I'm just going to quickly go through. If you have your schedule, you'll see all this on the schedule. So we're going to talk about the captivity this quarter. We're going to start with the book of Lamentations, as we just said, lamenting over the state of God's people. We're going to have a story from Jeremiah. We've covered most of Jeremiah. When the people get carried off into captivity, where is Jeremiah? He stays behind in Jerusalem, all right? So we've read most of Jeremiah, but there's going to be one more story there. We'll cover next Sunday about those people, that small group of people who were left behind. What happened with them? Are they going to be the remnant?
No.
They're not, but the end of Jeremiah is going to tell us why, okay? We're going to have some Ezekiel. As we said, Ezekiel got carried off to Babylon, so he's over there prophesying during the captivity. So we're going to talk about some stories in his prophecy over there. Daniel is over in Babylon the entire time of the Babylonian captivity and into Persia, which is going to come after Babylon. He's over there, so we're going to study some more about Daniel. We're going to have the prophet Obadiah, a very short book that likely occurs around this time. And then we're going to have the return. All right, so we're going to have stories about the return. Just like the people left to captivity in 3 waves, they're going to return in 3 waves as well. All right, so those 3 waves. First, in the book of Ezra, the first half of Ezra, chapters 1 through 6, you have Zerubbabel, who leads the first group back. When they come back, they start rebuilding the temple, and then they stop. Okay? So it's not the wonderful, glorious, everything is great that we're expecting. So we have prophets, Haggai and Zechariah, who come to them, who prophesy to them to continue the work. We'll study those books, Haggai and Zechariah. Then you have the second return unto Ezra. In the second half of the book of Ezra, Ezra 7 through 10. Then you have the third return in Nehemiah. So we'll study all that in the book of Nehemiah. All right, the prophet Joel, we'll study in here. We'll talk about that. The story of Esther occurs during this time period. Not in Israel, over in Persia, the Persian Empire at that time. So we'll study the book of Esther, the prophet Nehemiah, and Malachi, rounding out the Old Testament. Okay? So that's the plan where we're going. And then we're going to study the period between the Testaments. So the 400 years of silence. We'll talk more about this, so I'm not going to say a lot here. But just, we might say, well, why are we studying if the Bible is silent? Why are we talking? Why are we studying this? We're just going to have a couple, 2 or 3 classes on this. But the whole point is we want to understand the Bible story as a whole. So when you get there, when we get to the life of Christ, we want to understand it in context. And from the end of the Old Testament till suddenly Christ is appearing, 400 years of history elapse, and so things look different. So all of a sudden you have people called Pharisees and Sadducees and Zealots and the Samaritans and the Sanhedrin Council and all of these things that we don't know where they came from, if just from the Old Testament, all right? So we're going to spend a couple classes talking about history and what happened there so that we'll understand. It'll help us understand as we get to the life of Christ, all right? Okay. All right, so we're just going to talk about history, the different empires that come and go in between there, and how things evolved for the Jews, so that when the Christ comes, who these people are and why he's interacting with these people the way that he does. All right? All right, so themes for the quarter, things that we're going to talk about as we go throughout the whole quarter. So these are just things that we're going to come back to time and time again as we talk this quarter. Number 1 is God's covenants with his people. All these things that we've been talking about, what's going to happen? These promises that God has made, these covenants that he's made with his people, what's going to happen? How is that going to work out? And how glorious will be the return of the remnant? Note, these are questions, and they don't always have simple answers. It's going to be more complicated than we might think, but I think there's good answers for all these questions, but it's complicated, all right? So what's going on with the 70 years? How does that work out? What does that even mean? What's going on with the kingship? All right, there was going to be a lot of talk about this in the stories, in the prophets. They're going to talk about what's going on with the kings. The line of the king has ended. How, when they come back, who's the king? How does that going to work out? All right, who's going to be king in the future? The priesthood. What's going on with the priesthood when they come back? How does the priesthood work out? Who will be priest? And then just general ideas about disappointment and hope. And I say that because there's all this buildup. We've got this period of devastation right now, but there's this hope out there that everything's going to be glorious, that God's people are going to return, that they're going to return to his people, he's going to return to them, and it's going to be great. Again, that's all been promised, and yet there's going to be a lot of disappointment. When it actually happens and the people start coming back, it's not simple. It's not easy. It's not always pretty. There are conflicts from the outside. People are trying to stop. There's conflicts from the inside. Okay? There's sin and there's problems. And it's not always pretty, and so there's a lot of disappointment in during this time. But there's also a lot of hope. And the interesting thing is how those two things go together. Okay? We tend to think of those things as maybe opposites. All right? In the Bible, they tend to go together. Specifically, when we are disappointed in the world, when we are disappointed in the circumstances around us, when we are disappointed in ourselves, in our own behavior, in our own sin and temptation, God provides hope. Okay? And so we're still going to have prophets and people who are providing hope for the people, and we'll see how those go together throughout the quarter. Okay? All right, so that is the plan for this quarter. I hope you're excited for it. I'm excited. There's a ton of good stuff. We don't always discuss all of these books, but there's a lot of really, really good, I think, exciting stuff here, so I hope you're excited for it as well. All right, so for Wednesday, Wednesday, as I said, is Lamentations. Please read the book. I've got assignments up here. As I said, for those, if you haven't been in my class before, I hand out the assignments. It's not a list of questions that we're just going to go through in class. It's more just thought questions to help you guys think about it and then come prepared to talk about it together. All right, so that's just kind of the way I do it. So it's not a hard, long list of questions, but I do hope you'll read the book. It's a short book, 5 chapters. Please read the book. There's a short video. I'm going to send out the link for that. There's a short video that helps summarize that I think is very helpful. And then do the assignments. We can talk about it together Wednesday. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, Levi?
I'm glad you're thinking about it. I just picked them up.
Yeah, you got mine, let's see. Did you see who's here? No.
We had a class that we had
You're not making a movie
Chuck, are you gonna do the song? Okay, just make sure Ryan knows the order of the service when he's supposed to come up. Just make an announcement after. You've been here enough times. But we'll have the Lord's Supper, and we'll have one more song. Two rookies up here who not knowing what they're doing. That's just great. You're not instilling me with any confidence. Oh, you're going to read one song. He's going to do announcements. Tom will do announcements. Then there'll be another song. Well, song, announcements, song, opening prayer, and collection. Yeah. And then two songs before the communion. Communion. This isn't getting funny anymore, brother. We'll do the communion, and then we'll have one more song, and it'll be the scripture reading, and then Ryan will come up and do it. You're impossible.
see everybody here this morning, and, as I've been gone for a little while, and I think I got older, because I can't see anything, so I'm trying to use glasses. It's gonna be fun. I got wiser, I didn't know. Anyway, so, it's good to be here this morning. Let's lift our voices, we'll sing, listen to our hearts, as we open up the worship. How we